Bone Lake is a new independent horror film directed by Mercedes Bryce Morgan. A couple's vacation at a secluded estate is upended when they are forced to share the mansion with a mysterious couple. A dream getaway spirals into a nightmarish maze of sex, lies, and manipulation. I saw this movie a few days ago and I was having no idea what I was getting into. I did not see any trailers for this. I just saw like a few posters, some people saying that it was a pretty good horror film, and with it being October, no, I had to watch as many theatrical horror films as I could. So I went to the theater, got a ticket, watched the film, and was very much surprised at how this film concluded. And for a while, it was going the way I thought it would, and somewhere near the end of the film, in the beginning of the third act, the film took a twist that honestly really unsettled me, but how it got there was kind of predictable if I were being honest. Now, it wasn't bad or even mediocre. The film was beautifully shot. This mansion that the movie takes place most of the time was beautiful to exhibit, and we explore a bunch of interesting rooms and discover a lot of things that the characters are trying to do to each other and how they're manipulating one another, or at least how this couple is manipulating this other couple that's staying at this mansion. And there's a lot of intrigue about that, mostly due to the performances of how the one couple acts compared to this other, to where they're happy no matter what, or they're acting like really emotional about something, but there's always a little bit of a hint that they are overselling what is actually happening. And if you're going to this film completely blind and have not seen the movie before, you would think that this is like a bit hammy, a bit, they may be overacting, but at some point you understand how this other couple's acting is like the point of the story. And the twist that leads to genuinely unsettled me, because I honestly would not really call this a horror movie, but more of a psychological thriller, because the first two acts barely has any horror involved. Maybe a jump scare or two, but never really anything scary. Even some of the imagery don't really give off a sense of this is terrifying, even though some of the imagery can be a bit messed up. There's never anything there that I could really consider a horror, but there's always something interesting going on within the story that leaves you engaged enough. Now, the reason why I say I don't think the first two acts are as engaging as the third was because the premise of the story, you know exactly where it's going to and how each of the characters will act, and it just led to a bit of predictability within the first two acts of the story. Now, a lot of the dialogue, they say, is interesting to watch, how the characters are manipulating each other and how the story unfolds with that by the end of the film. But you could tell where the story is going from point A to point B, and it did not leave a lot to the imagination. But by the film's third act, that's where it gets so much fun, so much crazy, but also really intense and actually pretty frightening, with some implications or actual revelations that the film gives you with its twist. And it does leave you genuinely unsettled. And you look back at the other two acts and how certain things played out before, you have a much better context of what is really happening, and you start to piece together how everything came to this point in the story, and it just leaves you with a more unsettling feeling to where now you're going to watch this film for a second time and you're going to pick up on certain pieces of dialogue or imagery and you're going to be like, okay, now this is a bit disgusting and frightening. This is a film where I feel like if you watch it a second time, it's just going to click for you a lot more and it's just going to get better and a lot more scarier. And that is something that I feel like a good horror movie should do. That's all due to really good direction, really good cinematography, beautiful editing, and overall a sense of fun and engagement with the story. You are constantly intrigued throughout each portion of the story, even though the first 2 acts can be dragged out a bit too long, especially with the manipulation aspect of the story and how the characters are trying to play off with one another. It sometimes can drag on a bit, but never to an excruciating degree. You feel just intrigued enough to be compelled to see what happens next, and by the 3rd act, you feel rewarded for your patience. Everything clicks together, and the conclusion of the story just feels all the more rewarding. All in all, I thought Bone Lake was a really fun horror film, or psychological thriller, whatever you like to call it, that generally does gets you frightened and leaves you uncomfortable. And I love that feeling. I love coming out of film feeling uncomfortable in just the right way to where I am compelled to really watch this film again, just because I now know all the pieces that is in place, and I'm gonna feel like this is gonna feel a lot more threatening or frightening or just uncomfortable the next time around I come back to watch this movie. I'm gonna give Bone Lake an A-. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys next time.